Alright, I think we are live now. Please give me a quick confirmation if you all are able to see me and hear me properly. Are you all able to see me and hear me properly? Am I clearly audible and visible to all of you? Hi Pragati. Hi Caroline. Okay, thank you for giving me the confirmation. I will get started now. Before I get started with the session, I would request all of you to open this pre-scene content on your end also and keep highlighting the important things. Although I'm going to be doing the same for you people over here on the screen also, but just so that you can be more familiar with it, I would recommend that you highlight things on your own. All right. So let's get started. On the very first page, we have a little bit of an index given to us, which tells us what is given on what page. So firstly, we've been given the introduction. Then we have the sector information, and then we are specifically told about the entity that we are going to be answering questions about, which is historic places. Then we have some website extracts given to us, and then we have some financial as well as non-financial information given to us at the very end of this pre-scene content. So let us get started first of all with the introduction. So whenever you see the introduction, the very first thing that you highlight is this information is about a charity. So Historical Places is a charity which operates in the country of Rhodesia. It aims to preserve historical sites in Rhodesia. So here I have highlighted three things. Firstly, I have highlighted the type of business that this is. This is a charity. Charities are not for profit organizations. That means they do not operate for making money. They operate to serve some specific social purpose, some specific objective that they want to achieve and not make profits. So they are operating in the country of Rhodesia. This is the place where they are doing their charity. And what do they want to do? Their aim is to preserve historical sites in Rhodesia. So for example, we are based in India. So India has historical sites like the Taj Mahal, like the Red Fort. Very, monuments are there in India in a huge capacity, right? We have so many historical places. So similarly, you can assume that this Historic Places HP is the charity who aims to preserve all of these historical sites that are there in their specific country. So here in India, how do these historical sites, how are these maintained? These are maintained by one of the government entities, which is the ASI, Archaeological Survey of India. They take all of the decisions pertaining to this. So here in this country, maybe they do not have some sort of a government entity dealing towards this sort of stuff. So maybe we will have to rely on charities to help us achieve this. So this is the aim. We are supposed to preserve the historical sites that are there in Rhodesia. Now let's move forward. You are given with the overview of the charitable sector. So charities, which are the charitable organizations, these promote the welfare of the society and the public interest. They carry out very many different activities, including helping the sick and disabled, providing poverty relief and education, preserving history and campaigning on issues affecting society. Charities raise funds. So how do they work? They do not receive any sort of sales. So where does money come from them? Money comes via funds that the people donate. So there are again various methods through which they are able to receive money, raise funds. Firstly, people donate. Who donates to the charities? So if I have, let's suppose I want to work towards helping the poor children get education. So I will look for those NGOs who do that and I will put in some donations over there. So donations are given to the charities by the people who support their work, who believe in the same cause. And then next thing that they raise money through is commercial activities. Commercial activity means charities will often sell probably some merchandise, some sort of, probably if you are visiting these historical monuments, then maybe serving some food, so they will have some margins on it. So apart from the cost, they will make some money by serving that food to you. So this is a part of commercial activities. Now the charitable sector includes large national charities and smaller charities which operate on a single site. So this is the entire overview of the charitable sector of ACCA. Are we all good till here? Any queries or anything that concerns you till here? We've only been reading what is being given in the pre-scene, so I do not think a lot of new or something that can concern you is what we've done till here. Let me know, I'm waiting for you. All good till here, everybody? Perfect. So I move ahead. Now I talk about the charity's legal position. So the charities in ACCA are often set up as companies limited by guarantee. So here they are telling us about how these, what their legal position is. So you have different sorts of legal entities. You have sole proprietorship, you have partnership, you have companies, you have HUFs in India if you talk about. So these are the different types of entities that there can be. And how are charities operating? They are operating as companies limited by guarantee. Now what does this mean? This means that they do not have any shareholders. So they do not have any shareholders. It is underwritten by guarantors who guarantee to pay a specified amount of money to help settle its debts only in the event of insolvency. So basically, if there are some people who are setting up the charity, they will not be called as shareholders, they will be called as guarantors, because this company is limited by guarantee. So the guarantors are going to be the people who give a guarantee. Like the name suggests, guarantor kaun hoga? The people who give the guarantee. So they are going to give the guarantee that if the company is not able to repay the money it is owing to the other people, we will pay that money. So the others are not going to lose out. If company fails, we are going to pay. This is the meaning of a company limited by guarantee. Then further it says, surpluses are not distributed to the guarantors but invested in the charity to help promote its charitable objectives. So why did the people who have created this charity, why did they start off? They did not start off to make any money. So surpluses are not given to these guarantors. What happens to the surplus? It is invested in the charity to help promote the charitable objective. So in the case of historical places, their objective is to preserve historical sites. So any surpluses that they generate, what will it be used for? It will be used for serving their entire aim of preserving the historic sites. Okay, let's read further. Charities are determined by their governing document, which is known as constitution. So like companies have documents like articles of association, memorandum of association, AOA, MOA. So in that place, what do these companies, the charities have? They have a governing document which is known as a constitution. So all of what the company is going to do, what the company is not going to do, is going to be written in this constitution. Let's read further. Many charities raise funds by means of surpluses from commercial activities. For example, running shops. So like I told you, you can sell merchandise. So this is another way of raising funds. Commercial activities are carried out through subsidiary companies which charities wholly own. So what we will do is, this historic places which we have as the entity that we are talking about, they will have another subsidiary company. They are going to own 100% of that company. So usually we call subsidiary any company wherein we are owning 51% or more of the share capital. Here they own the entire 100% of the shares in this company which they create for commercial activities, for running shops. So this is about the structure, how they are, like what's their legal position, what is helping them to remain in their legal position, their governing document, and how do they run the commercial activities that happens through the subsidiary companies. So this is all about the charity's legal position. Let's read further. This is where we step into something important regarding the regulation. Regulation is all about the rules, the laws of the country. So charities in this country of Rhodesia are regulated by the Charity Supervisor Board, CSB. Now whenever I read this line, I come to one thing immediately in my mind, that this CSB is going to be a very important stakeholder for this charity. Why is this a stakeholder? Who is a stakeholder? I want quick responses in the chat box, please. Who is a stakeholder? Who is a stakeholder, guys? Waiting for your responses. Come on, who's a stakeholder? You're students of SBL, you should know this. Okay, stakeholder will be anyone who has power and interest in the company. So if you go by the general definition of stakeholder, which you probably would have studied in the very first exam of ACCA, which is business and technology, stakeholder is any person who gets affected by what the company does. So if the actions of the company affects me, I automatically become the stakeholder. Absolutely, company's activities and who directly or indirectly gets affected. Perfect, Priyal. So this is how we define the stakeholders. Now because the charities are regulated by CSB, that means जो भी CSB rules बनाएगा historic places को वो follow करने पड़ेंगे. If they do not follow, then there could be fines, penalties and closing down of our HP company. So let's read further. The CSB aims to ensure that the general public can be confident that donations to charities will be used for proper charitable purposes. Now usually, as you know, we are progressing into the kind of world that we live today, people have a lot of trust issues. Even we, for example, when you know, somebody comes to ask us for money when we are traveling on the streets, and there may be somebody who asks us money, we think that they might misuse that money. We may give them to have food, but they may some bad things, they may do some bad things with that money. So similarly, whenever you donate to any charity, the donors, the people who have given their hard-earned money to this charity, they are always going to have that doubt that are they really using the money that we are donating for the real exact purpose that they are telling, or are they doing some illegal things with the money that we are donating. So the CSB is in place. Central government ने CSB को बनाया ही इसलिए है so that the donors, the people who are giving the donations to the charities can be confident that yes, whatever they have donated their money for, the charities are actually using that money for that very purpose and nothing else. The CSB investigates that the allegations that charities are not acting in accordance with their charitable purposes, are behaving unethically and are misusing funds or otherwise breaching regulations. So क्या-क्या काम होता है CSB का? Firstly, they will check whether all charities are acting in accordance with their charitable objectives. Then they should be behaving ethically. So if there is any charity जो unethical behave कर रही है, then CSB is going to investigate them. And somebody who is misusing the funds, so maybe they are collecting the money on the pretext of charity. वो लोगों को ये बोल के पैसा collect कर रहे हैं कि हम इससे XYZ अच्छा काम करेंगे, but then they are misusing those funds. Maybe they are doing some other activities which are not good, which are not legal. So then also CSB is going to investigate, and if they breach some other regulations, then also CSB is going to come in and investigate. So this entire paragraph you see, this is the part wherein they are telling you that why CSB is in place, what all does CSB do. Hope is asking me, can you repeat regulation again? Okay, so regulation is what we have been discussing so far till here, that CSB is the authority which makes these regulations, which the charities in Artesia have to follow. So this becomes a very important stakeholder because they have a high power as well as high interest. So what does the CSB aim for? CSB aims to to make people confident that their donations are being used for proper charitable purposes. Whatever it is that people are donating their money for, charities are using it for the exact same purpose and nothing else. So this is what we've read so far, hope. Then the content of charities accounts is governed by a statement of recommended practice, SORP, published by the CSB. So this is again what all their accounts have to consist will be created, will be included in the SORP. The CSB requires all charity accounts to be audited. So that means audit is going to be conducted for all of the charities. Larger charities whose annual income exceeds $10 million need to report on internal controls and risk management systems, with the report being reviewed by the charity's external auditors. So this is the threshold. If the annual income exceeds $10 million, they need to report on internal controls as well as risk management systems. So this is the rule, this is the law that the CSB board has created, with the report that is also going to be reviewed by the external auditors. Then let's read further. It says charities and commercial subsidiaries wholly owned by charities are not subject to taxation in Artesia. That means these companies, the charities, do not have to pay any taxes to the government. So this is charity regulation. All good till here? Any queries, please ask. Are we all good till here? Are we all good? Come on guys, be quick. Okay. Now let's read further about the heritage subsector. So it's written that many charities in Artesia exist for the purpose of preserving the country's heritage at urban and rural sites. Heritage means things of cultural value or things of historical or cultural value which are worthy of preservation. So how do they decide whether something is heritage or not? Anything which will have some sort of historical value, some sort of cultural value, that will be termed as heritage. Charities in the heritage subsector conserve and maintain historical sites, including buildings and museums, and the objects kept at those sites. So what does the work entail? You have to conserve and maintain. So your work does not really end at conservation. Once you have conserved something, maintenance also becomes a part of what these charities have to do. And then the objects also which are kept at those sites are something which they are supposed to take care of. So for example, in the museums you see a lot of things are put on display. These things are often very costly. So if you know that the Kohinoor, the very precious diamond that was taken from India by the British, so that diamond is also kept in one of their museums. So you now know how worthy things can be when they are kept in the museums. So it is these charities only which are taking into consideration firstly conservation, then the maintenance, and then they are also responsible for the objects which are kept at those sites. So this is what their work entails. They generally allow public admission to the sites which they maintain. So public admission means that the public is allowed to visit these sites and museums, these buildings and museums. So as you know, we also can visit the museum where these things are kept. India also has many museums and many buildings which are conserved by the authorities. So public admission is allowed, and usually we have to pay a very small ticket price also to visit these places. So this is how they can earn the money which can then be used to maintain the place, right? So this is about the public admission. Then it's written that the heritage charities aim to bring history to life for the visitors. So this is again another aim. We want that the visitors should think that whatever we are telling about, the history that we are sharing with them, they should feel that it's something real, that it actually happened. So they seek to encourage public appreciation of and participation in heritage. This includes encouraging members of the public to visit the sites. That means we are trying that they should visit more and more, and they should also work for the charities as unpaid volunteers. So whenever I read about unpaid volunteers, something comes to my brain that these volunteers, if we are not paying them, that means they are not actually bound to work for us. That means if something happens, a lot of volunteers can quit, and as a result the HP is not going to have a lot of people to conduct the work for them. So this is something that comes to my mind. Applying it to the SBL scenario, whatever the pre-scene is telling you, how can it actually affect the company is what you should think about as and when you are reading the pre-scene. So let's read further. Heritage charities are also concerned with education. So they are trying to do something about the younger people also, the youth. They host visits from groups of school children and students at their sites. Some establish formal links with schools and universities. A number of charities provide training in conservation and other activities. So here you see they are reaching more towards the youth also, the random people who are there at the sites, that's good. But now they are trying to expand their coverage to the youth also. They are hosting students of schools and colleges to also become aware of their historical sites. So reading further, the two largest heritage charities in Odisha are Historic Places, which is us, which is the company that we are going to answer about, which looks after the sites which are over 300 years old. So that means our business only relates to sites which are more than 300 years old. Living the Past, LTP, which mainly cares for sites which are less than 300 years old. So our work, the work that comes in our ambit, HP's ambit, will be only the sites which are more than 300 years old, because less than 300 years old some other charity takes care of. So this is still here. Then we talk about, we have information given about the charity's significant stakeholders. So we have a list of stakeholders given to us. Now thinking from the exam perspective, I am coming to think that what all can my examiner possibly ask me. So when the stakeholders list is given to you, maybe the examiner can question you about what's the power, what's the interest of these stakeholders in HP. Maybe they can ask you the strategy to deal with these stakeholders, whose interests should be prioritized, who can be put in the category of kept informed, kept satisfied. So this is how a question which I can think can possibly be framed with this list of stakeholders that is being given to us. So let's read information about the stakeholders. Firstly, about the trustees, it's saying trustees are individuals who oversee the charity's activities. So their work entails to oversee, right? They are supposed to see that the charity is working fine or not. They are responsible for ensuring that it acts in accordance with its charitable objectives and constitution and complies with regulations. Trustees should ensure that the charity's control and risk management systems are effective and that the charity is managed with honesty and integrity. They develop the strategic direction in conjunction with the executive management. So here again, trustees, as you can relate it to a normal company, who does it in the normal company? The board of directors. So trustees are like the board of directors because it's their responsibility to oversee everything, and it's their responsibility to ensure that rules are being complied and the charity is having control and risk management systems, and the charity works with integrity and with honesty. So all of this usually you would see in a normal profit making company the board of directors to be doing, right? Then let's move to the next sort of stakeholder, which is the executive management. So executive managers are basically employees responsible for the day-to-day operations. They regularly meet with the board as the executive board or committee. So that means these are the people who are making the day-to-day decisions pertaining to the HP. Then other paid employees. So once in the previous section we were reading about the volunteers, these are unpaid volunteers, but some employees we are also keeping as the paid employees. So what does their work entail? Paid employees include head office administration staff and staff that is working full time or part time at the sites. So these are the people who are our paid employees. Then what about the volunteers? Volunteers, we were earlier reading about them that they are unpaid. So they carry out unpaid work at the charity's site in their spare time. They have no contractual obligation to keep volunteering. This is a very big red flag. What happens if all of the volunteers run away? HP's work can come to a standstill. So here, whenever you're talking about the evaluation of how much power, how much interest these unpaid volunteers are having, you'll have to keep into consideration that because they do not have any contractual obligation to keep volunteering for you, there may be a possibility that if they decide to go away, HP's work can actually come to a standstill. Then talking about the next stakeholder, donors. So basically, as the name suggests, these are the people who donate to the charity. So donors give monies to charities without expecting anything in return. They may give you a one-off donation, or there may be some donors who donate on a regular basis. So some people, when they believe in a certain cause, they set aside a fixed amount every year. So they will be giving you regular donations. Some people, maybe some tourists were visiting, they found out that your work was good, so they gave you a donation, but they are not going to come back again. So that was a one-off donation that happened only once. So this is the difference between one-off and regular donations. Then talking about the members, members pay an annual fee or a one-off fee for membership, which gives them certain privileges depending on what the charity does. The most important privileges which membership gives them are free admission to sites operated by the charity and voting at the charity's AGM, including electing trustees. So here they are supposed to pay some sort of annual fee or one-time fee for life membership, which comes with privileges. So historic places needs to keep them obliged with these privileges. What are these privileges? They can go to the sites absolutely free of cost. They do not have to pay for the admission ticket that any non-member will have to pay for. So if you visit a specific museum, if it is maintained by HP, you do not have to pay the entry ticket. Voting at the charity's AGM. So charity holds the annual general meeting, so they also have the right to vote in these meetings, including the election of trustees. So that means they have power over HP. So whenever you're talking about how to deal with them, you will have to write your answers accordingly. Then members do not own the charity and do not have any responsibility for its debts. So that means who had the responsibility for the debts? We had earlier read about it. The guarantors who had initially given the guarantee when forming the company, these are the only people who are responsible for the payment of debts. Any other person apart from that does not have any sort of liability to pay in the form of debts. Okay. Then non-member visitors, there are few people who just visit our sites, they are not the members of HP. So to visit the site, they will have to pay the admission fee, which you can also call as a ticket price. Okay. Then guarantors. Guarantors have guaranteed a specified amount to settle a charity's debts if the charity becomes insolvent, but are generally not otherwise involved in the charity's activities. So these are the only people who are there as angels who are supporting them, that if you face any problem, don't be worried, I am going to pay off your debts. Otherwise, they are not involved in the day-to-day activities of the charity. Then another stakeholder, when we were reading about this earlier, we had highlighted that CSB is definitely one of the very powerful stakeholder. powerful as well as having high interest, because they are supposed to ensure that every charity follows the rules and regulations, and they are the ones who are looking after all of the charities, right? So they act on the behalf of Rhodesia's governments in overseeing the charity activities. So they are a very powerful stakeholder having high interest also. Then talking about the last stakeholder which we are given about is the media. Stories in the media can illustrate the good work the charities are doing. However, media coverage can also be a source of bad publicity. For example, stories about charities money wasting. So maybe if the charity is not doing very well, then or maybe they are spending their money in a bad manner, then media can also give you bad publicity. So you can say how media also has a high power, because they have the power to create a good or a bad narrative for the charity. I have a doubt over here. Volunteers will be key players or keep informed. You tell me, Pragati. Volunteers, these are the people who we are not really paying them, but we are getting our work done. So if they leave, our work can stop. So they also, so that means they have a high power. Do they have a high interest? High interest means they are concerned about what the company is doing. Will they be concerned? Obviously, yes. If I am taking out time without any payment, I take out time from my schedule to help the charity do something, I would definitely want the charity to keep working for that specific purpose. If the charity deviates from that, I am no longer going to volunteer for the charity for free. So I have a high power as well as high interest. I hope you now have your answer. Okay, let's read further. Stakeholders who give money or financial resources are donors, volunteers, members, non-member visitors are often sometimes collectively known as the supporters of the charity. How are they called supporters? Supporters is anyone who supports you. So either they can help you with money or they can help you with some non-financial resources also. Non-financial meaning the unpaid volunteers. Maybe you required something, some sort of permission. So some member of yours had an approach with the government, so that permission came in very easy for you. So this is an example of a non-financial resource. So this is it about the stakeholders. If you people have any doubts, you can keep posting them in the chat box. I am keeping a regular eye over the chat box. I keep answering your queries side by side. I am not going to stop very often because this is a very big pre-scene that we have to debrief about. So I'm trying to keep this as short as I can, while at the same time explaining you all the things which you would require for answering the questions in your exam. Okay, now let's read further. Heritage charities income. So we already spoke about how they make money. It comes via donations, it comes via commercial activities. There are two things which we did not read about. Firstly is membership, secondly admission fees. So what happens in donations? Charities obtain donations in various ways. Contacting possible donors through the post, by email or text message, or giving visitors the chance to donate when they visit the historical sites. Charities encourage donations by advertising, including adverts on television or social media. Most charities have websites which allow donors to donate on them. Charities retain contact details of previous donors and focus marketing campaigns on obtaining further donations from them. Does anything come to your mind when you read this? I'll give you a hint, something related to cyber security. Anything comes to your mind? Quickly tell me. Come on, tell me. Does anything come to your mind when you see this? Data breach, perfect Pragati. So there is a possibility over here because you're retaining the contact details. What happens if your servers are hacked and the information relating to these people gets leaked? It could lead to a very big reputational damage for HP. Absolutely, data leakage, right? Correct, Hope. Moving forward to membership, Annual or one-off life membership fee. So as we were reading about this earlier also, members have the option to repay a fixed annual amount to continue being a member, or they can pay one time big amount that will make them member for life. Then talking about commercial activities, commercial income can come from various sources. Most sites have catering facilities, cafes or restaurants at the site. Smaller catering facilities may only provide snacks and drinks. Larger facilities will offer full meals. Charities may open some of their sites for hospitality events such as corporate events or weddings. So this is again another way by which the charities can raise money. Most sites have also shops. Smaller shops may sell guidebooks or other connected items to the site. For example, books about the historical period when the site was in use. So let's suppose the site pertains to whatever era, you can sell books which tells more information about what happened in that era, what was the importance of this site. Smaller, then let's read further. Larger shops sell a greater variety of products such as greeting cards, toys, household items, clothing and bags. Some of the items may be branded with the charity's logo. Does this tell you about something? Think while I read further. A small number of charities in Rhodesia also operate shops which are not at their sites but which are located in shopping areas. These shops sell the same items which are sold at the charities' sites. Some charities also sell their shop products online. Anything that you can think about the line which I have highlighted? Come on. I'm waiting for you people. Okay, Pragati says if we are selling something on the shops, then why are we not putting our logos on all of the items? So if you have a logo which is, my point over here is, if you have a logo which people are associating with the brand, that means that the charity also has some brand value, right? The people absolutely real, people are going to value the product if it comes from a brand. So if it comes with the logo, maybe the charity can start charging higher prices for it. Perfect. Good going, both of you. Great, I like the responses. Let's read further about the heritage charities expenditure. Charities incur the following main categories of expenditure. Firstly, it's about the site operating costs. So these are the day-to-day running expenses, including the wages of the employees who are working at the sites. So there may be some full-time people, then they are paid. So their salaries and all of this is a part of the day-to-day running of site operating costs. Then let's read further. Site maintenance and conservation costs. So sites require varying amount of maintenance depending on their age and condition. Some maintenance takes place regularly throughout each year and may be undertaken by the charity's employees or outside contractors. Sometimes major one-off projects are undertaken by outside contractors. So it depends upon the type of conservation work that is required. If it is some small work, then it may be taken up by the employees. If it's a big work, major work, then you contract it to somebody outside. Charities also incur costs conserving historical objects at their sites. These objects often require complex treatment carried out by specialists. So this is again something which they have to take care of. It may not be very easy to locate these specialists, maybe because this is complex and it can only be done by specialists. It may be very expensive to do also. So this is a big part whenever you're writing, thinking about framing of your answers. Okay. Then talking about the administration costs, these include costs of fundraising and marketing the charity's activities. Also the costs of administering membership. They also include the salary costs of the charity's executive management and other head office administration staff. Charities can suffer bad publicity and attract less support if the admin costs are believed to be too high. So that means you cannot be offering very high salaries to your admin staff, because if you do that, then the media is going to show that to the public. You're going to have a bad publicity and you will have lesser support from the donors, because these donors will think instead of actually serving your purpose, which is to conserve sites, you are spending away, you are wasting more and more money on the admin aspect. Let's read further. Keep dropping if you have any queries in the chat box. Heritage charities challenges. So the principal challenge with the charities face is the variety of factors which can cause deterioration in the sites and the objects which they are trying to preserve. So this is about the variety of factors. This is the first challenge that the charity is facing. Now, whenever you are given information with respect to challenges, coming again to the exam perspective, what can the exam ask you? Exam can ask you about how historical places HP can deal with these challenges. So what you will have to suggest solutions as to how these challenges can be overcome by HP. So let's read further. These include, number one, what's the first factor? Passage of time. Time hits all of the monuments. So if you happen to see the Taj Mahal that we have in Agra in India, the original color of the monument was made from white marbles. So the white marble, because of the passage of time, it's slowly converting its color from original white to a yellowish tone. So this is how passage of time is causing deterioration. Then let's read further. Natural conditions such as high humidity, pollution and violent weather conditions caused by climate change can accelerate the deterioration or result in significant damage. Wear and tear from having a large number of visitors can also have an effect on these sites. So that means if too many people are coming to visit these sites, then also it can be problematic. Hope is asking, can this be used for non-financial KPIs, admin costs? Yes, this can be. Okay. Now talking about the larger charities are also dependent on recruiting sufficient volunteers to ensure there are enough staff at each site. Volunteers are unpaid, thus saving charities salary costs, but their hours and attendance may not be regular and they may decide to stop volunteering suddenly. So one risk which we have been talking about right since we read about them being unpaid volunteers and they do not have any specific contract that binds them to work for us. So this is a big problem that they may decide to stop volunteering suddenly. So what will we do if that happens is the challenge. Then heritage charities face the challenge that non-heritage charities are also seeking donations. Potential donors are likely to receive communications from many charities. Charities which are in the news at particular times may raise considerable sums of money, but this may mean that the donors give less to other charities which they normally support. So this means that sometimes in the news some of the charities are spoken about, so the attention of the public gets diverted to those charities, so they may receive money, and the ones which are not being spoken too much about, they suffer as a result, they receive fewer donations. Then at present there is a recession in Odisha. So again this is a very big challenge. Whenever there are times of recessions, people have lesser money to sustain for their own livelihood. So how and why will they donate bigger amounts to charities? So this is again going to be a challenge for Odisha, because if the country is suffering from recession, people will allocate lesser money to charities, and as a result the money that they are able to raise via donations can also fall, which can cause a lot of operational issues for HP. Let's read further. Here is some information given about the KPIs, key performance indicators. Hope was just talking about this. So there are some financial indicators and then we are given with some non-financial indicators. What are the financial indicators? Financially you always talk about it's for a business, it's about profits and losses. For a charity, it's all about income and expenditure. So income, we have already read how does this charity make money. They charge membership fees, there are donations, there are tickets, so site admission fees, income from the commercial activities, they have some shops, they have some restaurants and cafes, and then income generated per visitor from shops and catering activities. So anyone who has come to this site, who has come to visit, then they are also going to spend something on the restaurants, on the shops. So this is also a part of the income. Then what about the expenditure? Expenditure is all about the site operating costs, maintenance and conservation costs, admin expenses, and then the employee costs. And whatever the excess of income is there over expenditure, that will be termed as surplus. And what is the term if the opposite has happened? If your expenses are more than your income, then it's called a deficit. So these are the terminologies which you're going to be using when it comes to the financial indicators. What about the non-financial indicators? Firstly, you can deal with this with respect to commitment. How many members do you have? How many donors do you have? How many volunteers work with HP? How many visitors come to the sites which are maintained by HP? All of these are non-financial indicators showing the commitment that the people have towards HP. Education and development is another non-financial indicator. So how many educational visits are there? How many staff and volunteers, how many days do they spend in their training? How many employees do we train? All of this becomes a part of your education and development. Then talking about conservation and preservation. So how many hours have you spent on conservation? How many objects have you restored? How many projects have you completed successfully? Satisfaction. What is the feedback that is given by the members and visitors? What feedback is given by the employees and volunteers? And how many people come back to renew their memberships? Because as we see in the normal profit making companies, we see the repeat orders. So here we have members. So how many people renew their membership? How many percentage renew their membership also indicates their satisfaction. Then talking about environment, resource consumption, because we have to be caring about the environment also. Climate change is also affecting us, so we have to take care of that. How much resources have we consumed? How much is the percentage of energy that we have used from renewable sources? How have we recycled the waste that we generate? And what about the carbon dioxide emissions that we, HP, has released into the environment? So this is it about the KPIs. I move ahead, keep dropping in your queries if you have any till here. Historic places, we have the background given to us. So we operate in the heritage charity sector and was founded 120 years ago. So this is how old we are. It's a large charity which looks around after 350 sites over 300 years old. Many sites are castles or museums. It does not look after any sites with religious connections. So this is again something relating to the social aspect. We are not concerned with religions, we only look after castles and museums. HP is a company limited by guarantee, we have already read about this. HP's senior management and most admin staff are based at the head office in the capital city of Odisha. HP's commercial activities are undertaken by a subsidiary which the HP company wholly owns. So this is nothing new till here. HP's mission is that it permanently protects and preserves the site interested to it and promotes the interest and access to them. So if something is in a bad condition, nobody actually visits it. So HP's mission is that we are going to protect it, we are going to preserve it, we are going to tell more and more people about it so that they visit and they are able to access these historic sites. Now let's read further. The values which HP promotes are historical truth, accessibility, enjoyment, involvement, transparency, including inclusivity, diversity, social and environment responsibility, and stewardship. So these are the values that we believe in. Then talking about the governance, they have a two-tier governance structure with a board of trustees and a board of executive directors. Trustees are responsible for overall control and management and for developing strategies in consultation with the board of executive directors. The Board of Trustees has audit, nomination and remuneration committees. So, these are the different committees which are there as a part of HP. So, you have different committees, you have audit, nomination and remuneration. I hope you all are already familiar with the type of work that these different committees do. This is a part of your syllabus. Then let's talk about the Board of Trustees. They have 9 members. First is the chair. Chair is appointed by the trustees, does not have a fixed term of office. HP's member do not vote on the appointment of the chair. Then you have the nominated trustees. 5 trustees are nominated by the HP's nomination committee. Their appointment is subject to a confirmation vote by HP's members. If they are confirmed in office by the vote, then they serve for 3 years and they can also seek reappointment. Then you have some of the member elected trustees. 3 trustees are elected by HP's member at the charity's annual general meeting. Trustees elected by the members also serve for 3 years and they can seek re-election again. I have a point made by Pragati, which is a very good point, that you see a lack of risk committee in their governance structure. They do not have any risk committee. Risk committees are super important. They are responsible for the evaluation of risks and to find out the solutions to deal with those risks. This HP does not have a risk committee, which leaves them a very big risk which they are taking. Okay. Board of Trustees is supported by a Board of Executive Directors, which is the Executive Board. Executive Directors are appointed by the Board of Trustees on the advice of the Nomination Committee. HP's members do not vote on the appointment of Executive Directors. The Executive Board is responsible for the day-to-day management of the operations of HP. The board is headed by the Chief Executive Officer. Remuneration of the Executive Board members, including the CEO, is determined by the Remuneration Committee. So, we see this is a good thing, good principle of corporate governance is being followed. The persons who are getting the salaries, they are not deciding their salaries on their own. So, this is one good thing about their corporate governance. So, whenever the question asks you to evaluate about their corporate governance, the governance structure at HP, you are going to talk about multiple aspects of it. You are going to identify the weaknesses as well as the strengths. Nominated trustees are nominated by the nomination committee itself. Exactly, that is what we read earlier. So, even though you are separating them by name, eventually it is done by the same thing. So, rather than going the straight way, you are taking the curved way to reach to the same place. So, again you are going to highlight this thing if it is being asked, a question like this comes up in your exam. Now, let us read further about the executive board structure. The structure looks something like this. CEO is the head. Under the CEO, you have the operations director, you have the finance director, marketing director, HR director and the IT director. Then you have information given with respect to the code of conduct. So, HP has a code of conduct which trustees, executive directors, other paid employees and volunteers are expected to follow. The code includes core principles relating to professional behavior, commitment, adherence to decisions made by boards, confidentiality, conflicts of interest as well as bribery. So, all of the important things are taken care of in the code of conduct. Then you have something with respect to the acquisition of sites. HP acquires buildings and other sites as gifts from previous owners or by purchasing them using HP's surplus funds. HP will only acquire sites which are of national importance and are under threat of destruction or deterioration over time. So, firstly, which is of national importance, secondly, which is under threat or under deterioration. Then talking about the operational activities, every HP site is open to members and other visitors. An admission charge is payable by non-members to access the sites. We have already read about this. Amount charged varies between sites depending on what can be seen at the sites. How often the sites are open also varies. So, there are different opening and closing hours. Sites must sometimes be closed for a period of maintenance, and opening times can also depend on their staffing levels. Another big red flag. the if the sites are open, only then we will be selling tickets and we will be raising money. But if because of staff we have to keep something closed, then we are being too dependent on the staffing levels, too dependent on our employees. Then it says HP aims to enhance the experience of the visitors to its sites by providing guides to give tours. So another possible way of making money. On-site information, exhibitions about the aspects of the site's history. It also aims to stimulate interest. How will they plan to do that? By encouraging children to spot features at a sites or objects that are kept there. So something like a treasure hunt, so that people become more and more interested in the sites. HP's education objective is focused on hosting visits of groups of school children and explaining to them the significance of what they are visiting. Sites also offer special events including performances about the site's history aimed at children and families. Every site has a shop. The size of the shop determines what is stocked there. Every site also has catering facilities where visitors can sit down and eat. Smaller sites only provide snacks and chips. Larger sites offer full meals. HP's best known sites include, so these are some of the names which are given, that these are our best known sites. So I have a question from Pragati in the chat box. Can SFA model be tested on the acquisition? So Pragati, there may be a scenario that they give you more information about one or two of the sites which they are thinking to acquire. Then definitely yes, you may be asked to give a conclusion should that be acquired or not, and then you can possibly use the SFA model over there. Absolutely. Okay. Then let's read about the stakeholders. Details of the key stakeholders is given to us. Members, you have around 5 million members. They offer annual memberships only. So there is no lifetime subscription offer. You have to renew your membership every year. Then it says the benefits of membership include free admission to sites, we've read about this, and regular newsletters and emails. Members have the right to attend AGM, we've already read about this. They can vote on the appointment of trustees, receive annual report and financial statements, and approve the appointment of the auditors. So that means they are the ones who will decide which auditors will be appointed. They can also submit resolutions which are not binding on the trustees. So if they have some suggestion that they want HP to take up, they can submit a resolution for that. Trustees can evaluate, and it is the choice of the trustees whether they want to go ahead with the same or not. So it is non-binding on the trustees. Then you have information pertaining to employees. HP has 4,000 full and part-time employees, including staff who work for the wholly owned commercial subsidiary, the one that we have for shops. They work at HP's head office and sites. Some have worked for HP for a long time. What does this indicate? If some of your staff has been working for a very long time, it indicates that the staff is satisfied. It indicates that you have a good retention ratio, which means you are building in good policies for your staff so that they decide to stay and not leave the organization very quickly. Generally, HP pays average salaries for jobs across the charity sector, which are lower than what would be paid for equivalent jobs in the commercial organization for but obvious reasons. I know this is unfair from the employee's perspective, but again, as we were reading about this, that we can have bad publicity if the charities spend too much on the admin work, right? Many employees are prepared to accept lower salaries than they would obtain outside the charity sector because of their commitment to HP's mission. So the people who believe in this mission that HP is on, they will be ready to work for a lower salary because they also want to contribute towards this mission. So this is the reason why even though they are paid less, they still want to work for HP. Then talking about volunteers, HP has around 20,000 volunteers. So this is the number of volunteers who play a very significant role in the operations. Predominantly, volunteers act as guide, work in catering facilities and shops, and also help in maintenance. So that this indicates how much dependent we are on the number of volunteers. And do you also see the stark difference between the employees versus versus the unpaid volunteers? Employees are only 4,000. Volunteers are 20,000. So that means they are more in number, they contribute more towards HP. Then talking about the suppliers and contractors, the choice of suppliers and the inventory policy of the catering shops, catering facilities and shops is determined centrally by HP's procurement function. They are using external contractors for regular site maintenance and major projects. Contractors for large single projects are employed on a one-off basis. Yes, Pragati has worked out the ratio. It's a ratio of 1:5. So, it indicates your dependence. Employees, you have 4,000, volunteers are 20,000. That means you have 5 times more volunteers compared to employees. Absolutely, Pragati. Then talking about the IT systems, HP's information systems are adequate for its administration needs and are fully compliant with the data protection regulations. You have computerized information systems which cover major operational functions. HP has a website which publicizes its activities and allows donations to be made and members to join. So, here some sort of a requirement can also ask you about how they can use the information collected on the website to work better. So, whenever you have a website, you are collecting information, you can do marketing better, you can understand your customers better, so that you are able to produce advertisements in that manner. So, keep brainstorming about these points as and when we are reading this scenario. Then let us read further. Website has okay, you publicize your activities, you allow donations, separate web pages for each sites including details of the sites such as history, maps, facilities and news. So, we are also giving the information relating to the sites that we have over the website. Let us talk about risks. So, here a risk register is maintained at the head office covering significant charity-wide risks including: firstly, you have the threat to reputation. Bad publicity can lead to members not willing to renew their membership, donors will not donate, volunteers will not want to work. So, reputation is one thing that HP really needs to be serious about. Other threats to income, we had already seen about recession. Here the highlight is bad publicity, here it is about recession. So, if you have a recession in the country, people are going to want to donate lesser, and visiting sites also have leisure activities. So, if the economy is in recession, people do not have money for their survival, will they be going for recession activities, will they be going for leisure activities? No. So, not only does it affect your donations and membership fees, it also affects how many ticket prices, ticket sales you are going to generate, because all the activities that you have are leisure activities. So, the risk is that visits will become less popular, reducing the income from admissions and commercial activities also. So, basically all the sources by which HP makes money, they are all at risk because of the recession coming into the place. Then talking about the loss of employees and volunteers, if employees and volunteers leave and cannot be easily replaced, then the experience offered to visitors to the sites may be affected and the sites may open less frequently. We were discussing about this. Some conservation work requires specialist staff, and loss of these staff members may impact our ability to carry out work on sites. Then you have insufficient financial resources. If income is less than what we expect or need, we may not have the financial resources to carry out all the conservation work. Then poor performance by suppliers and contractors. Poor quality goods provided by suppliers can reduce visitor satisfaction because they are being served food at the restaurants and cafes. So, if that is poor quality, the customers will not be very satisfied. Poor performance by contractors will mean that HP does not obtain value for money, which may jeopardize the conservation of building. Why did we create this charity? We want to conserve all of the historical places, but if that is something which does not get achieved, then what is the point of having this charity? Moving forward, health and safety. These can affect people working at and visiting the sites. Sites have potential hazards including slippery surfaces, steep staircases, extreme weather, may create hazardous conditions at some sites. So you have weather as well as hazardous conditions that the weather is going to create at these sites, because of which it can also have a health and safety hazard. So if people get injured, if your employees, if your volunteers, if the visitors get injured, then it can lead to legal fines and penalties being levied on HP. So this is also something that you will consider. Talking about climate and weather, poor weather can affect visitor numbers at sites where visitors are wholly or mostly outdoors. Extreme weather such as excessive heat, high winds or rain can damage the sites. So not only does it affect the number of people, but also it can damage the sites, which can ultimately lead to more and more of expenditure that you have to incur on repairing these sites. Okay, cyber security, computer systems face the risk of disruption, jeopardizing its administration and services which it provides. Leakage of data held about members and donors could result in legal action. We've already discussed this. Loss of reputation, unwillingness of members and donors to provide their personal details. So as we had already discussed, these were a few risks that HP company is facing, HP charity is facing. Now we have some information given from the website extract. So you have a few information that is posted on their website. Firstly, it's about inspire. We want to inspire everyone who visits us in imaginative and authentic ways. We aim to stimulate our visitors' minds and provoke their emotions. Then the access to our country's history enriches everyone's lives. We want our visitors to have the privilege of standing on the spot where history happened and to live our country's story. Then engage and entertain. We want everyone who visits us to love the time they spend with us. We engage our visitors by bringing fascinating true stories of our sites to life. We use creativity and imagination to delight and entertain our visitors. Then you have some information given with how they involve. So they rely on support of members, donors, volunteers, and we want to build relationships with them. Then it's about conservation, which is their main role, and then it's about sustainability. They want to minimize waste, they want to use greener energy, and they want to use the increase the use of recycled resources. So all of this is what the company wants to achieve, their actions, what they want to do. Coming lastly towards the financial and non-financial information, this is the last part that we are supposed to cover. So here you see the income, the graph given for income. Now you can see the graph starts from a low point, it goes above, but from here till here it has come to a stagnation, it's not going further up. So this stagnation could be possible because of the recession that is due to come in the country of Rhodesia. Then if you see the graph pertaining to operating expenses, this graph is a straight going upwards steep line. So this represents your operating expenses are exceeding, they are increasing year on year, they just keep on increasing. So you will also have to keep the graph of your income looking the same way if you want to at least meet up your expenses, otherwise you will end up in a deficit. Charity can face liquidity issues. Then let's talk about the split of income in 20x3. So the major part of their income has come from memberships. Then the second contributor has been donations. Shop and admission have almost similar contributions, and then catering is the one with the least contribution. Then when it comes to, so how you are going to talk about this split is, membership gives you the highest source of income. So the members should be kept satisfied, more and more value additions should be provided to them so that they keep renewing their memberships and HP can keep raising more money. Then talking about the split of operating expenses, you see site operations are the highest ones. So this creates a question mark in my mind, considering that the operating costs involve the day-to-day running of the sites, and mostly the volunteers who are more in number, they are the ones who are unpaid. Still, why is site operating the highest cost of HP? This is the question that I am getting in my mind. Then Maintenance and conservation, this makes sense because maintaining and conserving takes a big amount of money. And then admin cost, as it should be, is the least cost, and they should still work to minimize this if they do not want bad publicity in the name of HP. So if you people have any queries till here, feel free to ask me. We will move to the last graphs, last two set of graphs that we have given to us in the debrief in the pre-scene is, firstly, you have the number of visitors, members as well as non-members combined. This is also, it was going up, but then it has stagnated. So you need to ensure that the visitors keep coming to your sites. Only then you will be raising more and more money from the ticket sales, from the members, and from the shops, and from the restaurants and the cafes. So the visits cannot really stop. You need to figure out some way so that the visitors keep pouring in. Then if you see the number of members, it was growing at a very good pace over the past 2 years, but in the last year the growth has not been very high. So the business also needs to think about, because they were also the biggest contributor, members are the biggest contributors to our income, so the business really needs to think of some ways with which these members can find value in historic places, and they keep renewing their memberships. So these are all of the graphs that are provided to us. Please ask me if you people have any queries. I just have a quick presentation which I want you people to go through. So the entire debrief, what I've done is, the entire pre-scene that is available to us, I have created a quick summary for you people. As you can see, it's just a 14 slides of summary. So I'll just quickly take you through this PPT. I have created the most important things which are there. I've put in place those things over there which you need to remember. So that your journey towards remembering what all information is there in this pre-scene content remains fresh in your mind. If you want, please feel free to make a note of any points which you feel you might want to come back to later. Hope has a doubt. I have a doubt on sustainability. According to website, since conserving and maintaining the resources may require high pay and external resources. Yes, Hope. So we have conflicting objectives also many a times. So we will have to find a midway. We will have to find some service providers who use more of conservative energy, renewable energy, to help with the maintenance work, with the repairing work. Okay. So firstly, I've given you a quick summary of what historic places is. So their aim is to conserve cultural heritage, and they play a vital role in preserving the country's cultural heritage by managing 350 historic sites, enhancing public engagement through education programs, and promoting local heritage tourism to foster community appreciation as well as economic growth. So this is the entire overview of what historic places does. Okay. Pragati says, difference between integrated thinking and reporting. So the difference lies between thinking and reporting only. Integrated reporting, where we are reporting about all of the different capitals. Integrated thinking means when so reporting happens when the things are already done, when the year has passed, that is when you prepare the report. Thinking happens when it's future linked. So I'm standing today, for the next year I'm planning integrated thinking. So I'm thinking about all the different capitals of mine, that is when I'm doing integrated thinking. And when at the year end I'm reporting about how I did this, that will be known as integrated reporting. Moving ahead, the two income sources that we identified, firstly, it's the membership fees. They are not only providing the essential funding for operations, but you also have a dedicated community with which they engage. They provide you support through tiered membership options. Then you have the role of donations. The second contributor is your donations. So these are the two key areas of revenue. So donations are vital for the financial stability. Diverse sources including individuals, corporations. So you should have effective donor engagement strategies which will help you to enhance the contributions and also make long-term relationships with your donors. Next thing is about the key expenditure areas. So where are they spending most of their money? So basically I have used this chart. First you have the operational cost. So the people at HP, they will have to have an effective oversight of the site operation so that resources are used optimally, allocated optimally, enhancing the experiences of the visitors and maximizing the revenue generation through improved service delivery. So that means the service that you are providing to the visitors should be good service so that you maximize your revenue, and all of this will be a part of your operational cost management. Then we saw the next expense that they are doing is with respect to the conservation. So within conservation, they will have to do strategic funding for these projects to maintain the structural integrity and historical authenticity. At the same time, they have to safeguard the heritage of Rhodesia for the future generations to see. Then you have the thing pertaining to administration. So administration also has to be done efficiently. You have to streamline all of the administrative processes to reduce overhead costs. How can you possibly do that? You can suggest that for any repetitive tasks, they can have a software that can perform all of the repetitive tasks, right? And then enabling better financial management and alignment of organizational goals with strategic initiatives for sustainable growth. So this is how they should be managing their admin costs. Moving further, section 2, we will be talking about the strategic challenges and risks. So firstly, these are the challenges that they are facing. Firstly, their financial model is very vulnerable. Donations are declining, recession is coming. So in that case, funding is going to be a very big problem. So declining donations necessitate innovative fundraising strategies to ensure operational continuity and support for conservation initiatives amidst the economic downturn. So you know the economy is going into recession, but probably you can create some campaigns where you emphasize to the people that it is very important to protect, to preserve the authentic places of our country, Rhodesia. So that is how you can convince people to keep giving you donations. Then you have something given with respect to engagement and retention issues. So we are seeing that the memberships are dropping. Memberships are not increasing as they were increasing earlier. So you have to address the drop in membership renewable rates. That's very critical to you because members are the biggest contributor to your income. So you need to take care of the renewable rate that is dropping. Enhancing member benefits and community involvement can revitalize the interest and support for HP's mission. So you can give them some other benefits, whatever benefits you are presently giving to them, you can add some more benefits so that they gain their interest and they keep supporting HP in the mission. And the next thing is we have to maintain the funding pressures. Rising site maintenance costs due to environmental factors require strategic partnerships and alternative funding sources to sustain preservation efforts effectively. So as we were seeing that because of climate change, you having more and more of rains, high heat, because of that the sites are also damaged. So accordingly they are supposed to take care of the maintenance fundings so that the company does not go short of resources to be able to fund the maintenance expenses. I hope all is good till here. If you have any doubts, please keep dropping them in the chat box. Then key risks that we had identified over here. First risk was with respect to the reputational damage. Then financial stability, and then it was about the volunteer engagement that we need to increase. So firstly, reputational damage, this is all about you have to have your communication strategies in a way that if you have, let's suppose, some negative media coverage is there about HP, so then HP will have to have a proactive communication strategy. Even before they start to criticize HP, they should be doing something to counter that, to tackle that, so that the public keeps trusting HP, and that the donors will remain confident and will keep supporting HP in their initiatives. Then the next thing is about the financial stability. So we have to diversify revenue streams, we have to think of new ways of raising money, and we can probably go into some sort of partnerships so that we can mitigate our financial risks, ensuring that we have a consistent cash flow so that we can sustain essential conservation projects and operational activities. Then the next thing is with respect to volunteer engagement enhancement. So because we are so scared about the volunteers leaving, we are heavily dependent upon them, we should ensure that we keep implementing some sort of programs so that they are engaged with us, so that they are more resonating to what HP is doing, and they keep volunteering for HP. Hope says, will this be available on YouTube for reference? Absolutely, yes. This video will be available under the live section of our YouTube channel. Then section 3 is all about me telling you how you can prepare for your exam and how they can possibly assess your skills over here. So with respect to professional skills, you will have to include, like we have already had the session yesterday on the professional skills. So you will have to integrate your analytical skills, your commercial skills, your skeptical skills, communication skills, so that you are able to answer all of the complex requirements properly, and at the same time you are able to secure those important professional marks that you have available in the SBL exam. Now, according to me, these are a few themes that I could think of where they can test you, what the requirements can possibly be based upon. So the very first thing that you see is resource allocation. So I hope you people remember the value for money model that we follow for charities, VFM model: efficiency, economy and effectiveness. So you may be required to evaluate whether the charity HP is having a good resource allocation. So you will have to evaluate how they can optimize their distribution, how the resources can be specifically channeled to the places where they are needed the most. Then the next thing is with respect to the governance practices. So we are focusing so much on the board of trustees, the executive board. So all of that, maybe you can get a requirement where you have to emphasize why it is important to be transparent and to have stakeholder trust in the governance. So only if your people, your stakeholders trust in the governance, only then the organization can continue to run in the long term. Otherwise the survival can become very difficult, can be challenging. Then another thing where I feel they can ask you, they can examine you from, is the stakeholder engagement strategies. So they might ask you to devise some strategies where they can engage the stakeholders more and more, some methods by which the communication can be enhanced, by which the collaboration can be more, so that the support and satisfaction is increased by the different stakeholders that HP is having. Then I give you some final tips for your exam success. So the very first tip is you should be thoroughly reviewing all of the materials. You should be regularly revisiting the pre-seen material so that you retain whatever information is given to you over here, even though it's going to be given to you in your exam also. But if you have it fresh in your mind, you will not be wasting a lot of time and going back and coming back again and again. So the second tip that I want you people to do is practice time management. You should be allocating 3 hours for any mocks that you practice from now onwards. If you previously also have been doing that, most of my test series students would be doing that. So you are already good to go. But if you were not practicing under timed conditions earlier, ensure that all of the questions that you practice from now on are actually timed. You time yourself and do not allow yourself to write even a word after the time has ended. See how much you are able to do in the allowed time. And the third tip that I have for you people is to seek feedback on the responses. So whoever you are taking your classes from, whoever you have taken your mock evaluations from, ensure that you seek feedback from them. Tell them to let you know where you are going wrong, where you can improve, so that your overall performance can be very good in your final exam. So these were a few final tips from my end. Now I am opening the floor for the Q&A. If you have any questions, you can ask from me. And what your next steps should look like is you should work on the clarification of your key concepts. If you have any issues in the pre-scene that is given to you, ensure that you work on clarification of that. Then you should be engaging in your mock exams if you already are not engaging in mock exams. And then you should be utilizing the feedback mechanisms. So get your mocks evaluated by somebody so that you know where you're going wrong, what you're doing right, and how you can overall improve your answers. So this was all that I had in store for you people today. Thank you for being such patient listeners, and thank you for being so interactive in today's session. I really enjoyed conducting this session for you. I hope you people also gained value from this. Now I'm going to spend a few minutes if you have any queries. Otherwise, I'm going to end this session here. You're welcome, Pragati. You're welcome, Priyal. Most welcome, all of you. Okay, so Pragati is asking who will be the agent and who will be the principal. So in this scenario, it's a very different one because it's not the usual profit-making organization. So you could say, as we had already identified, that trustees are more of what the BODs are, the board of directors. Their work is what usually in a profit making entity the BOD does. So maybe you can say that the agent are the trustees, and the principal is usually the one who appoints the agent on their behalf. So the principal could possibly be your guarantors over here, because it's mainly their doing that the company is being formed, and on their behalf it's actually the trustees that are taking up this work. So you can probably, this is one interpretation of how you can classify who's the agent, who's the principal. Members will have a high interest and a low power. Is that what you're asking, Hope? So if you talk about the members, they are our biggest contributors. So they definitely have high power, because if they start contributing a lesser amount, the business can face issues. And if you talk about the interest, so these members are definitely going to be interested because they have the right to vote. They vote at the AGM, and they do not really own the charity, but yes, they are going to have a high interest because they get privileges, they get admission to sites, and they also have the voting right, which gives them a high interest also, Hope. Any other doubts? If people have no other doubts, then I would like to conclude this session over here today. Thank you for being a part of this session. I hope that this was useful for all of you. Hope there's nothing given with respect to board diversity in the scenario itself, but maybe in the exam, if they create an additional exhibit, you're going to receive some of the information on the day of exam also. So they may give you information if the board has diversity, and then accordingly you can answer. I think this requirement has been asked so many times that most of you are going to score good marks if the board diversity requirement gets asked. All right, so allow me to conclude.